just go to Annabelle Echo, and you'll see me.
Okay.
It'll be a cartoon character, like an avatar.
Really?
It won't be my actual photograph.
Okay. And Annabelle.
I can show you. So
Well, we could settle all that later
Oh,
on too.
okay.
Yeah.
okay. So do you want to go first?
Well, you're sort of passively asking me to, aren't you?
I don't know. It's okay.
All right. Well, you're.
You see, I'm a little nervous because Zach is like a psycho. Wait, are you a psychiatrist?
You're psycho, period.
No,
Psychoanalyst.
yeah, psycho. So
Yeah.
of course, normally I'm not nervous, but
But I'm making you nervous. Okay.
yeah, well, because he is this
Yeah, I'm
in
a
that
I'm a
field.
therapist.
A therapist, yes. So
Okay, but you're the only person brave enough to come do the open mic part. So.
Yeah, there were a lot of my friends said they were interested.
Yeah, a lot of mine did too.
That's all annoying.
This is still a pretty good turnout. So.
It is, yeah. It is.
Actually, yes.
Okay. They don't. All right, here, this is my latest one. Okay. 1500 Asteroid Way. In the beginning there is darkness. I took every opportunity to improve things once I made a clean break with the past. There can be incredible synchronicity in the world, which makes causality quaint. Mental hospitals suck, but disability checks are cool. In 8th grade, I made a faster line drawing algorithm in I don't know how you say this, but it's 6502 assembly language for my Commodore 64. From 1990 until 1994, I worked at Ticketmaster on their VAX multi-processing system. This is not artificial intelligence. It is purely an occult oracle like speaking in tongues or consulting a Ouija board. It is a microsecond range stopwatch. The Holy Spirit can puppet you. There is no network support for this there's no network support for or in this operating system. Praise, sandcastles, snowmen, popcorn, and bubbles. Thanks.
Nice.
Wait, now we switch seats so you can read?
We don't have to. It'd probably be easier to move the camera than.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
there we
okay.
go.
Yeah, oh,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, I should have thought of that. Okay.
I need glasses and. All
I
right.
remember the 6800 too.
This was published in Russia. Just little poems got published in oddball places, and this Russian editor, for a laugh, translated one of them. And he and I started talking, and we decided we'll do a book. So so it's in English and Russian. I have no clue if the Russian is. There could be borscht recipes. I don't know. I don't know Russian. But I know it's out in Russia because I get a lot of poorly translated spam mail.
Oh, really?
Offer adequate afternoon, Mr. Mucha. Then offering me porn. Hello, come on in.
Great moment to watch.
Uh huh.
There you go.
Do you need to get past this?
Sure.
Okay. We think you got couch room.
Take some seats. This is our author. He's just starting. Sorry about this.
No. All right. I'll start with the longer one. Get it out of the way. This is about the magician Ricky Jay. If you remember him,
I love him.
you like.
I thought he was dead because...
He is dead.
Oh, but I mean, I thought he was dead before he was dead, and it's because...
He's caught up to you now.
Well, in the X-Files, he faked his death like his head gets chopped off, or something like. And I could have sworn that it was so. I was sure he was already dead because of that. But that he wasn't dead. But now I guess now he died.
He did. He died. I wrote this after he died.
Oh, I'm sad.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish
So it's called Oh Lucky Me for Ricky J. 10 years old, he switched the toothpaste and Brill cream, proud of the simple subterfuge between cabinet and sink, seeing the first signals of something, that knowledge existed between gestures, uncertain and disappointed to be the son of obedient routine. To learn how to see what others couldn't, he sought out Catskills magicians with names once chopped, rounded, and Americanized by Ellis Island lines. Names refracted again, balancing the urge to stand apart and remain within the crowd. To see how hands could move, he sought out Vegas sharps who performed in silence with names meant to be forgotten. He created seances of mirrors to slow time between bright spotlight gestures, watched his own hands from every angle until they belonged to a stranger. One morning he woke up ambidextrous. He learned not to look at the ghosts of his hands until he wanted others to see. He disappeared himself, looking for a way to master that invisible gap between people where each space signified possible truth between words. He wanted to find the gap where nothing happens and nothing is said. He wouldn't talk about his parents, but his sister was okay. I saw him first at a card table in a Mammoth movie, lugubrious and hooded when calling the last hand in the United States of Kiss My Ass. He said the lines right, dead bored and angry. What is this marker? Where are you from? Not stomping along with the beat, drumming a bit ahead. Who is this broad? Or dragging behind. Club flush. You owe me $6,000. Thank you very much. Next case. Dismayed to see him giggling with talk show hosts, I expected a stone-faced disruption of the Showbiz Mutual Non-Aggression Pact. I wanted the Jungian shadow of every magician, a criminal carrying the fantasied grace and palpable rage of a child ignored, and a fake name so obvious it was more real than birth. He built his library and a thug took it. Dismissive of the cup and ball trick depicted in hieroglyphics, in the history of the world infused with fools or tricksters since the first owl-faced gods scratched on rock. A foreclosed car lot, cleared without a drop of sweat, just the brute force of a world where math is not memory, but the gravity of capitalism where there is no illusion and no grace. He held a bemused tolerance for the year he was born and the years in which he stood. The name discarded, a point of pride like being born in a car wreck. Against that sadness, being outside time was another trick to save himself. During a sold-out run at the Old Vic, the true sharps never came backstage, but sat with their new wives just off the center aisle. He breezed through the differences between a Vegas shuffle, a gin rummy shuffle, and a child's two-palm scramble to always find, as he said, "Oh lucky me, the ace of spades yet again." He quoted Seneca, Villon, and Shaw between dead cuts, bottom and second deals. Every profession, he said, is a conspiracy against the laity. With audience members at each elbow, he made the queens and aces appear at will. He simply knew where they were at all times. A woman from the BBC told once of his truculent participation in documenting his own life. He refused to perform for her cameras, making her job more difficult than it need be. Lunch in LA, he chose the restaurant, pissed her off all day, and then as the waiter took the laminated menus away from the glaring sun of the corner booth, made a block of ice appear on the table between them. She didn't know why she burst into tears. She asked, "Why did you do this to me?" He shrugged, "I lie for a living." That's it.
Cute as a bucket of kittens.
I don't hear that much.
Well, that was from what is it? One of the Mammoth movies.
Cute as a bucket of kittens.
Oh, I think it's Mammoth. Maybe it was just a movie he was in.
Could be.
No, maybe it was from Heist. Maybe that is. It might be Mammoth.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to go?
Okay. Wait then. Let me see if I can find it. Alright. Okay. You can throw curveballs. Thank you for calling your 24-hour shaman, Richard Allen Miller. How may I direct your call? Yes. Ball 4, he's just outside. Purpose is not intent, but if you are close to your angel, you can throw curveballs. You are responsible for the thoughts you choose to entertain because 99.9% of rabbit holes lead nowhere. Even I'm starting to believe it because in 1960, I turned on my supercomputer and asked it one question: is there a God? The computer didn't even hesitate and said, there is now. The heterodyne detection principle states that I am you, you are me, but I am the walrus. I've got to be very careful about all this because using terminology like that confuses me. Because if I can't distinguish the differences between harmony and disharmony, somebody's going to pay. And Jade Helm 2.0 will profile you. It's like when the slowing of the Earth's rotation causes it to fall out of its orbit. I knew him as Isaac the Unlikely. He might have been an extraterrestrial being because who works at the same desk on Woodlawn Avenue for 48 years? It was at the University of Chicago where they have underground vaults with top secret and tight security. I have discovered that imagination is the only thing that is real. Think of it as money. When you begin to see things that don't make sense, it opens doors and changing the movie is simple. This trauma of consciousness will force us to study tech that no one can any longer remember. And most of my poems come with an illustration in color on Facebook. So that's the pink bubblegum monster, and there's like a early model laptop.
Alright. I was thinking about this earlier, about my pop. Who's been my pop since I was like 18. And we've had a lot of like good ideas that I've benefited from. And no, the ideas were like all his, really. But this is one idea we've had that has not worked out yet. It's called the sacred geometry of trauma for Father's Day. The correlation between childhood trauma, paranormal beliefs, and paranormal experiences presents some evidence as to the lengths we will go to create a sense of control or to explain the chaos of childhood. A covariance structure model suggests dropping the direct causal link between fantasy and belief, hopes and expectations. When the Powerball reached 300 million, my pop and I agreed to split a ticket, once he used the Socratic method to make sure I knew how to place the bet. We had no control over the numbers plucked by God, but we could influence the number of winners with whom we would share. And I knew to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because what other fools would? Got another one?
I'm a bottomless pit of neurosis. Okay, here. Okay. So okay, I'll let you figure out what it's about. Okay. I was gonna say what it's like. Okay. Hygiene is my middle name. This has an illustration, but that's online. Okay. Hygiene is my middle name. No. I haven't been on a shopping spree. Hygiene is my middle name. Check my bra straps. After I started talking to myself out loud, you could, 1, meet me in the women's washroom of Macy's basement, if you're lucky. 2, Listen to me laugh hysterically about the time my ex-husband was plotting to murder me. 3. Watch me in the mirror as I imagine adjusting my makeup. 4. Count the times I announce my every intention regarding my personal preparations, no matter how minuscule. Questions. 1. If I were my peach smoothie body butter, where would I be? Do you think I think thinking is a tricky word? 3. If you have some impressive questions up your sleeve, why not share them with the world? 4. Who knows what you will find? Key takeaways. Speak to a niche audience. 2. Dare to exclude people. 3. Play with curiosity. 4. End with a question.
I know just about everyone in here except for you two. Can I ask what brings you?
Just knew of the bookshop and saw it on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Decided to pop on by.
This is an open mic. Do you have anything?
He's got something.
Ah, good. Get up here.
I got a little story or two to read. I don't know what the right length is, something. So
Yeah, go till you get tired.
printed up a few different ones.
2 to 5 minutes would be
Yeah.
prudent.
There you go.
We'll go for a short. This is called Playing Out the String. The signature late October crispness of Vermont gave the forest a vitality that belied the state of its foliage. The lion's share of oak, elm, especially maple leaves, had left Harold with a veritable red carpet to announce his arrival, though accompanied by a healthy dose of golden orange. Harold trudged along a barely perceptible trail in a section of the vast woods that truly warranted off-the-beaten-path status. Gripping his GPS device, he wondered to himself whether this would have been possible 10 years ago. Then again, 10 years ago he was happy, or thought he was. In 4 hours of hiking, he'd seen nary a soul and, surprisingly, only a single raccoon and a handful of deer. Had he miscalculated? Was he already too late? In his trek 2 days ago, by this point he'd already seen 2 bears and a small group of coyotes or wolves. He couldn't tell which from the distance. In addition to the usual fauna who called the North Woods their home. No, he decided, they were still out here, and eager to feed as their bodies commanded their minds to seek out any and all food before the cold, dark days ahead. Harold silently cursed himself for wasting valuable time on such thoughts. He had only until tomorrow to make his decision after all. But didn't it make sense to enjoy this penultimate stroll without endlessly debating the merits of rope versus razor blades versus a high fall? Some methods had been easy to dismiss. A gun could be found by a kid, however unlikely that was. Pills, though seemingly the most peaceful method for Harold, could prove harmful to the animals who he hoped to help make it through the winter. He was reasonably sure that one of his final 3 choices would be the best one for all concerned. How much easier life would have been if he hadn't read that damn book a few years back. Mark, his old college roommate, had made himself a nice little career as an ethicist. Much like poet or philosopher, such professions sounded more theoretical than real. But somehow Mark had spun his charisma and gift of clever wordplay into regular television and magazine work. Who'd have guessed that his book, Everyday Ethics, would spend more than 3 months in the top 50 on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list? Why couldn't Harold have just gotten his copy signed at Mark's event in the city and stuck it on his shelf unread? Now he was consumed with making sure that his suicide was conducted in the most ethical manner possible. He resolved not to spend what might be among his final hours unpacking the philosophical tesseract that was questioning the ethics of begrudging an ethicist for so successfully extolling the virtues of an ethically lived life that such that one's ethical death became an utter tribulation. And not for grand issues like morality and self-determination, but rather for the more vague notions of compassion and sustainability. Harold glanced at his GPS and confirmed that the clearing was just a short way ahead. He braced himself in case his plan had failed. Shaking off the thought, he immediately vowed to proceed regardless. He'd made the decision some time ago and was at peace with it. That was not in question. It wasn't that he hated his life. That was too strong a word. He just knew he was done with it. As a boy growing up outside Cleveland, hope sprang eternal each spring. This would be the Indians' year, but it wasn't. Not that year, or the next, or the one after that. By midsummer, the Indians were always hopelessly out of contention. Being young and foolish, he never wavered. They just needed to win 20 in a row and they'd be right back in the pennant race. But they were just playing out the string. That was his grandfather's saying. Harold didn't understand the expression then. What string? What was Grandpa talking about? Years later, he understood. How did those players feel playing game after meaningless game in the August heat, away from their families for weeks at a time? Probably a lot like he felt right now. Pausing for a moment in a patch of sun, he was confident in his decision not to do it at home or anywhere where a loved one, or more accurately, a supposed or former loved one, would find him. He firmly believed that one need not study ethics or even think deeply about the topic to recognize the immorality of forcing his ex-wife or one of his kids to find him, to witness the grisly aftermath. Ethics or not, cruelty was not in his nature. He crested the small hill and could immediately see that there had been some activity. Harold had left out 2 whole salmon in the clearing as a test to see if the creatures of the forest would avail themselves. While he loathed being responsible for the death of an animal to conduct this test, he was able to justify it by waiting until October, when the mature salmon returned to their breeding ground to spawn and then die. These adults would have died very soon anyway, had they not been caught. As he approached, he saw that the fish were both gone, with little trace left. Harold smiled for the first time in quite a while. He walked over to a nearby tree and removed the camera he'd placed nearby to record the happenings in the clearing. He grinned with anticipation, hoping to perhaps see the very animals he hoped would be sustained by his flesh, that in some small way he'd live on through them. His study of ethics had led him to stop eating animals after so many years. Harold knew his sacrifice wouldn't atone for those countless lives lost, but it couldn't hurt to add at least a last notch in his karmic ledger. Yes, he'd return again tomorrow. It was time for Harold to stop playing out the string.
All right.
Hey.
Thank you. All right. Anita, should we do one more each? Call it a night? Oh, I'm next?
You try.
I'm just going to read the beginning of this one because it's very long. So, it's called Composite Sketch with Multiple Witnesses. The ideological descendants between Constantine, Charles Lindbergh, and William Pierce sunk their fiber optic lines to the empty throne at the bottom of the glass sea, gathering coral ever since John of Patmos got locked up, waiting for those burnished brown feet to break the shore, maybe New Jersey, Luna Park or such, where wind will bend and strip the trees bare, ocean and sky revolve grays for one moment, so quick no one notices before the aluminum-sided wood-frame houses are broken to shivers and sent drifting. They think it's the same thing they're waiting for. Jesus will come when enough is enough. In the last chapter, Captain America and all the Avengers will answer. Whether our cruelties will be rectified or whether they are the retribution. Sevens of scepters and stars at the ready. A sword glides up, double-edged, from the throat of the classically trained actor. Wigged and helmeted at the comic book convention as security guards check for orange tips orange-tipped weapons of mass destruction. The pattern is clear. Off the property, past the tree line of a Michigan farm, a circled path in the clearing, a sick dog is trotting himself to bone. The most recent shooter emptied a bank of humans and left the money, called the cops on himself, and waited for the standoff. Baby fat face and neglected crew cut meet the standard phenotype in the mugshot of the Indiana boy still on probation as a prison guard trainee. Charles Whitman climbed the tower with a shelled half-pecan of a tumor nestled between his eyes. Organicity aside, he still set the precedent of killing the women in his home first. Then it gets more depressing from there, so I'll stop.
Austin, Texas.
Alright, last call.
Okay, okay, maybe I'll do my signature. Okay, wait, glasses. Okay. All right. 33 seconds. Hey, it's Annabelle Echo. Thank you for joining a live conference already in progress. Listen, I'll be real quick and get right to the point, without ever having to sell, convince, or explain anything to anyone. It would be worth 3 minutes of your time to hear a 3-minute recorded message. Press 3 on your telephone keypad right now. Please be aware that your local phone company may leave your line open. Excuse me, I had a burp. Please, your local phone company may leave your line open for up to 33 seconds. This is an urgent and important message. We have made several attempts to reach you. If you're receiving this message, it is because our records indicate that you may qualify. This is your final courtesy call. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Chelsea, anything you want to add?
No, thank you for being here. And if anyone is interested, I mentioned to Zach earlier, I'm doing a People of Heirlooms project with a Polaroid camera if anyone wants to be a part of just a shot. And also his books are on sale here, so please.
All right, yeah. You want to take a picture? Anyone who wants to be in it? Get that
Anyone
done?
feel like it?
Yeah.